What are subtle red flags at a job interview that say, working here would suck?
I brought up a company's awful Glassdoor reviews and they got so mad they ended the interview. Well, guess I dodged that bullet. When you ask, what do you like about working here, and the interviewer talks about the location of the job, it's a great place to live, instead of the actual job. This actually happened to me. Interviewer: do you have any questions for us? Me: what is a challenge this department has recently faced? Interviewer: job security. I didn't know it at the time, but "you'll be wearing many hats" was a sign that they were going to give me the work of 4 positions and the wage of 1. I didn't last a year there before I left, and now I won't even finish reading job ads that include that line.
I once turned down a job offer because they mentioned that the previous person in the position had quit after a few months, and most of the people I interviewed with seemed stressed out.
We only want the best of the best. Me: how much are you paying? Minimum wage.
Always ask the interviewer about the last person who worked the position you were interviewing for, how long they worked, and why they left. Their answers can be very telling of the work environment.
You are required to wear clothing that has the company logo. You must purchase it yourself. From the company.
You'll get full-time hours but won't be full-time, aka we'll do everything in our power to avoid giving you benefits even though we have you working more than 40 hours in a week.
We don't like clockwatchers here. We expect everyone to be committed. Expecting more work for no extra pay. Getting mad at you when you leave at 5 even though your stated work hours end at 5. Everyone looks tired. Also, you don't see anyone in your department before working in it other than the boss. Made this mistake a few times. Was the worst jobs.
Employees are either new hires or have been there for 15 plus years with no in between. There is RNO room for improvement. It's better to leave for advancement.
Had an online interview with a company a few years ago. Was interviewed by the regional manager. Seemed like a normal interview. Halfway through, he let slip that there were 6 other people from his company watching and listening in, but the software was set up so I could not see or hear them. And he actually got a kick out of telling me this. It was like being on a first date with someone, and finding out later she had a hidden camera on her and her parents and 6 other family members were watching the whole time. I'm like, yeah, no, fuck that noise.
When you are signing all the forms they give you and you are taking your time to read over every document so that you can fully understand what you are getting into, and people come in and start telling you that you don't need to read this and that, just sign here and so on. I was once told, sometimes the hourly workers go on strike and they lock us in to keep the production line running, but management brings us steaks and we have an informal agreement with the unions so you can cross the picket lines once a week to visit your wife.
When they tell you, what I'm paying you stays between you and me. Don't discuss pay with anyone else, usually means they are trying to pay you less than your coworkers who do the same job and don't want you to know.
At my last place of work, the person interviewing me had a printed cartoon on their wall of someone who looked like a bomb had blown up in their face, with the caption, "I spoke with boss, name, about it. I guess we're still doing it." That wasn't subtle at all, but I ignored it. The boss was an absolute tyrant who wouldn't listen to her staff, consider changing her mind about anything, or let people do the work they were best suited to do. She wouldn't show up for weeks at a time. The job itself was decent, but she was the worst boss I've ever had.
Jobs where the expectations of the position aren't clear. The person hiring you should be able to give a clear idea of your responsibilities a day to day in a practical way. It shows that the company understands what it wants out of the position. I've worked a couple positions that had a really hard time figuring out who was supposed to do what. That led to a lot of confusion, and both of them had this in the interviews. If the company you're working for can't define what success in that position looks like, you won't be able to either.
I was once part of a group onboarding for an IT job. They handed us all the one-page new hire contract, and everyone except me signed immediately. When I read the paperwork, I discovered we were signing a mystery document. Clauses included, "I agree to abide by the personal search and seizure security policy" attached. Without other pages, there was no way to determine what I was agreeing to. I kept requesting more and more pages until the HR drone said, "Okay, I guess me is just determined to hold everyone up. We will handle you separately if you're struggling so much." After I walked out and drove home, I called the hiring manager to apologize for not taking the job. He informed me that HR reported I had walked out after refusing to be drug tested.
When they insist the suicide nets are merely a safety precaution. Not getting to speak with who your direct manager will be. A game room or ping-pong table is advertised as a perk. The blatant overuse of buzzwords about your profession, clearly written by someone with no clue. People seem tired.
Well, the overtime isn't mandatory, but most folks stick around after hours most days. Spoilers, the overtime is mandatory. If they seem too relieved that someone actually showed up for the interview. When they feel the need to reassure you in the interview that at that company, they work hard, but also play hard. They don't play hard, it's a sweatshop and they're just trying to convince it's anything but one. We work hard and we play hard. Translation: you will work 60+ hours a week. You will be expected to work late nights and early mornings. People will treat this job like their whole life. We'll also underpay you. It may look like a decent salary, but when you back it out to hourly, it's not even remotely competitive with industry standard. But we have kegs and a ping-pong table. Also, if everyone that interviews you has been there less than 2 years, it's a sign that they can't retain good employees.
They dodge questions on pay, meaning they don't pay enough for what they expect of you. The word family, in reference to the employees, means they want you to work lots of unpaid overtime. Edit. Also forgot. But if they keep talking about the experience you'll gain, that's also code for, we know we're going to be underpaying you.
When they ask out of nowhere what clients can you bring with you?
If they're always hiring, constant staff turnover means people quit a lot, so it must be shit. Edit. Thanks for the awards. Last job I worked. Yay. Everyone here is new. But it's totally because of COVID. The boss doesn't like people going out to get lunch because they're afraid you'll never come back. So being your own lunch. You'll get weird looks if you leave on time. It was a Chinese-owned company with heavy Chinese work culture influence, so you were expected to stay overtime all week. Also, the people here are nice, but it's pretty stressful. ATA. Also was told by my trainer, you want to know the best advice I can give you? Find another job. This was like my second week in.
My current boss gave me a great tip on the last interview I had. He said, ask them if you can pick an employee to chat with about how they like the position you're applying for. They'll give a better impression of the place than management. I got the job I was interviewing for. I turned it down because the above is the kind of management I want to keep in my life. Also, the place undercut my pay offer, I found out, which is certainly also a red flag.
If you ask what the opportunities for promotion are and they don't give you an answer.
Just to add to the flame, I was an 18-year-old college student at the time, and they would schedule my work shift during my class time. My manager knew I was not available till 4 p.m. You not going to have kids anytime soon, are you? What are your childcare arrangements? Are both things my wife has been on the receiving end of. You'd assume you wouldn't apply if it was an issue, right? Funnily enough, I'm a man and I've never been asked.
We're a family is code for working long hours, lots of overtime, and they don't care about their employees.
Do you have a strong personality? Meant everyone else who worked there were raging cunts who I literally got into massive shouting matches with and quit over within 6 months of having started. The money was good but no tie.
Receiving a job offer without a real interview, or even directly after the interview, that's usually a sign of desperation on the employer's end. Also avoid anywhere that says, we're like family here. Also avoid any position that doesn't have a clear job description, or says something like, the incumbent is responsible for other duties assigned as management sees fit. They will make you their bitch. Edit. To all those getting caught up on the exact wording of, other duties as assigned. What I mean is, if they give you a very vague description of the job, or not exactly sure how to answer your questions, or have 3 bullet points of job description and then it's all other duties, or if they can't give you examples of other duties. Be prepared to become that company's bitch.
If they tell you not to discuss pay. I never ever followed this rule. It's important to find a way to broach the subject with your coworkers. If they are of the mind frame that it's impolite to ask someone their pay, then tell them yours and pay very close attention. Do they smile a bit? Do they look disappointed? Try to gauge from that. Because, we don't discuss pay, has always been a way to hold down wages and nothing else. It's illegal, but unfortunately it occurs anyway.
Once an interviewer straight up asked me if I had any trouble working for free on weekends. I told them my free time is more valuable than anything and that the only way that I would work a weekend is if they are paying me and if I felt like working a weekend. She got really mad at me and ended the interview right away. Biggest red flag I've ever seen because they didn't even try to hide it.
Was interviewed by a senior programmer and the department head. The department head was continuously making condescending remarks towards the other interviewer. Poor guy just sounded broken. Hope he's somewhere else now. The one question every job applicant must ask is, why is this position open? And watch the faces of everyone in the room before they answer. If they tell you the company's growing and it's a new position, great. If Smiling Mary says it was her job but she was just promoted, terrific. If they tell you that the last couple of people they tried in the position just didn't work out, thank them and leave. We're a family. Translation. We will constantly make you do stuff outside your job description. We will call you on your days off. We will accidentally lose any overtime records. We will yell at you. We will try to buy your affection with pizza lunch days. We will succeed because your morale will be obliterated. Location flag, location flag, location flag, location flag, location flag.
When they get the interview time wrong and then gaslight you about it. I've had a couple interviews where that happened and the person told me it was me who made the mistake. I did not feel bad missing the opportunity.
We're looking for rock stars. We're looking for people who will tolerate our shitty pay, hours, and treatment of employees. I was interviewing at a local business that had recently been acquired by a well-known corp. I asked the interviewers a question that I've found invaluable: what do you personally find are the most challenging parts of this job? And I watched the light leave their eyes. They both sighed wryly and said, it's really busy, and that was all I needed to hear to know that working there would be a nightmare. I emailed afterward to remove myself from consideration, and I am confident I did the right thing. I went into an interview for a low-level admin position, and they made me put my cell phone in a bucket up front, stating, no phones are allowed in the back. It reduces productivity. Big nope for me.
Your salary is completely commission-based and you won't get paid for 2 months, every solar panel sales job. Edit, I interviewed at a few. Not everyone has 2 months worth of savings right now.
The ad for the job has been running continuously for 10+ years. Lots of people standing at colleagues' desks chatting. Either you'll be expected to be present at all times without a sufficient workload, or you'll be picking up the slack for co-workers. Also, I've had lots of interviews where they told me they didn't expect me to have a 9-to-5 mentality. I tend to throw back a, sure, if the work is done by 3, I'd be okay with leaving early, and consider anybody who seriously objects to that not worth working for. You get hinted at stuff or they beat around the bush on scheduling explanation. Here they like to hire part-time, then schedule you 39.5 hours, or 30 minutes before full-time, to avoid paying insurance and such.
My favorite is, there's a lot of people waiting in line to work here, count yourself lucky. Huge red flag.